Shell is an energy giant multinational and has been associated with India for more than 7 decades. Royal Dutch Shell, the parent company of Shell India, is ranked third on the Fortune Global 500 list for 2019. Shell is one of the most diversified international energy company in India with over 8,500 employees and presence across upstream, integrated gas, downstream, renewable energy, with a retail presence across 6 states. Shell is expanding its network of fuel stations across the country. It has the entire lubricants end-to-end value chain in India, from conceptualization and development to production and distribution. This includes a world-class lubricant oil blending plant with a capacity of more than 115 million liters, a distributor network of more than 185, and over 60,000 retailers across the country. We are pleased to have with us Mr. Raman Ojha, a seasoned business leader with 23 plus years, having joined Shell in 2005. Raman, during his 14 years with Shell, has held a multitude of positions across all verticals of Shell. Raman has also held board positions, most recently as a vice chairman director for Shell Foshan joint venture in China. Prior to joining Shell, Raman has worked with several multinationals like ExxonMobil, Ernst & Young, and GlaxoSmithKline across different functions and geographies. Welcome to the interview, Mr. Raman Ojha.
Thanks, Pratap. Thanks for the introduction also.
Okay, I'll move on to the questions now. How has Shell India been managing the COVID crisis and the lockdown imposed due to it?
I think, Pratap, these are unprecedented times, difficult times, tough times, and it took a lot of people by surprise. And at this stage, or when this happened, Shell was very clear and stuck to its core policy, which is of care, respect, honesty to its employees, its customers, and communities at large. Our biggest priority over the last couple of months, since Corona spread has started, has been to ensure that our staff, our customers, our distributors, our various stakeholders that we touch are continuing to stay safe and protected. So that's where our focus has been, Pratap.
And what about the supply, the disruption of what you were to supply, what you were to import, what you were to export? How did all that get affected?
So over the last, been almost 2.5 months, I don't think we have slipped on our supply promise to our customers, though industry came down, but lubricants is classified under essential commodities. And a lot of our direct customers, big industrial companies, they started their production because they were in essential commodities themselves, like oil and gas was there, etc. We've been able to maintain our supply consistently to them. And I think we were one of the international oil companies who also had their lube blending plant up and running even during this crisis. So that was a commitment. And I think over this period, I must thank my supply team. We've got lots of acknowledgements from our customers on how Shell has been able to ensure their safe operations during this crisis.
So would you elaborate on how your labor factory setup has been able to function with this crisis looming over our heads?
So if you look at it, I mean, the first thing that happened when the clampdown happened was the plant had to be shut down, right? Because there was no movement of staff. First, we slowly gained approvals from all the relevant authorities to ensure that we can keep the plant running. Now, as we were running the plant, the question comes up is, care of our staff is at core of it. So the first question we asked ourselves is, what is the skeletal staff, most critical staff that's required to run the plant? And that's where our automation helps us. We had to take a lot of precaution in terms of sanitation, in terms of taking care of staff, ensuring safe transportation, sanitation of the plant itself, the social distancing. So those were the challenges which were new to us. But I would say, again, with the help of a global experience, we were able to adapt very quickly and bring in the best practices to start the plant pretty quickly, Pratap.
What about transportation and logistics? Did that was that also convenient for you all?
I think there were challenges there. So transportation, both from the angle of bringing in raw material and also delivering finished goods to our customers, initially became a challenge. But there again, I would want to mention 2 points. One, I think the transporter community has been very, very helpful, not only for the customers, consumer, public at large in India, but they also helped us gather the right amount of transportation or trucks to enable us to deliver to our customers. And I think that's also what got us going to run a COVID relief activity for our trucking community to ensure, because they were stuck, stranded on highways, etc. So we ran a COVID relief activity, which we are still running, to provide basic ration, sanitization kits, etc. to this community. But I think transporter community has really, really stepped up and helped India recover or still in the recovery phase during this, Pratap.
So Shell is also known, Raman, to be very strong on R&D. And during this time of lockdown, were you all able to work on any technological innovations, etc., or Industry 4.0 or something like that? Because obviously, the post-COVID scenario of the whole industry is going to be quite different.
So, Pratap, that's a very interesting question. I think typically when crisis hit, people look for technology or product innovation. But I think the needs of a consumer are very, very different at the moment. So innovation that will happen in the industry will leverage technology, but in a very different form. So if I look at my consumer, whether it's a big industry or it's a small consumer who has a car, the need is for hygiene. The need is for convenience. The need is for liquidity at the moment. The need is to feel safe, right? So the innovation that we are doing at this moment is for our automotive consumer is safe mobility. I mean, people will not have the luxury to go out to pubs, bars, restaurants, parks. Maybe a car could become their second home where they feel they can express themselves. So we are focused a lot on ensuring that we offer doorstep services which sanitizes, maintains their car, ensures that they don't get stuck on the road, and they have peace of mind. So that's one kind of innovation that we guys are doing. The other innovation that happened was again leveraging technology. People still need to run their plants. People still need to get trained because there are new people who are joining. So there was a massive effort from Shell technology team to ensure that we are able to share, impart knowledge to our customers, but also do troubleshooting virtually by going into the plant and machinery. So to me, it's those kind of technological innovations which are going to make difference to industry, consumer, and overall our society, Pratap.
And how do you see this whole auto industry now, coming back? Because obviously it was already slowing down earlier this year, and it was seeking a lot of government, you know, grants and measures, interventions. And now with this whole impact on automotives, on one hand, people feel that personal travel vehicles will become more important because public transport pose a risk. On the other, we had the electric vehicle development that was going on. How do you see this whole auto industry shape up now?
I think again it's a very interesting question. I'm sharing my reflections. It's only time will tell what will really shape up now. But if you look at, we are the crossroads where consumer industry would be making different choices. So if I look at a consumer's perspective, I mean, one question that goes through your mind is safety, right? Safety, hygiene, convenience. And in that context, there would be an uptake on private mobility, much more vis-a-vis public transportation. So that shift we could see, and we would see, because people will move to private transportation. But when you come to private transportation, there again the question comes up is, what happens to car ownership? Will that trigger a demand for new set of cars, two-wheelers, etc.? Or will there be a massive revival in used car segment? Our personal view is it's time will tell us, but probably there'll be a surge in used car segment, which means for the reliability perspective, consumer would be again looking for a peace of mind. So they would be looking for an end-to-end service which can maintain their vehicle, ensure it's sanitized, hygiene, it is well managed, doesn't give them any problem when they're running it on the road or highways. So there you will see a lot of innovation coming up and a lot of different platforms, whether these are online aggregators or lube oil companies. I think people will join hands along with OEMs to ensure that they cater to emerging consumer needs. But you'll see a lot of action in the coming days in this space, Pratap. A place to watch for, huh?
Yeah, I think unprecedented times and therefore will demand unprecedented action. So one last question for you. When do you think this sector will finally get closer to normal?
Anybody's guess, Pratap. That would be, I mean, it makes me kind of laugh on myself because nobody knows, right? I mean,
True.
nobody knew Corona could stay for so long. There was comparison with SARS earlier. It's anybody's guess, and it's evolving day in, day out. I think what we as society, as consumers, and as service providers like us, we have to get or we have to come to terms with the reality that variability is here to stay. It'll be ever evolving from month to month change. So you can't say this is a new normal or this is going to be the next normal. So you will have different society parts of societies kind of responding very differently. You will have different kind of impacts coming into society at regular intervals. So I would say it will be very dynamic, or very changing. But we'll have to make choices, keeping consumer at the heart of society, at the heart, to ensure that we are making responsible choices, Pratap. But these are really difficult and pretty volatile times.
Yeah, you're right, Raman. So that brings us to the end of this interview. Thank you very much. I think the change is the only constant. This line is much more real today than any other time before. And we are going to see change happening every single day. We are seeing a different scenario and different scenarios being shown to us by doctors, by scientists, by the government. So yes, the goalposts keep changing and we have to adapt. I think that's the
Indeed.
only new normal. So thank you very much, Raman. Thank
Absolutely
you
right.
and stay safe.
Thanks, Pratap.